Hi everyone, it's Jenny with Joey and Jenny's Little Yellow House, and you can find us on YouTube and Instagram at Joey143Jenny, and you can also find us on Facebook at Joey and Jenny's Little Yellow House. So I'm back outside. I stitched, let's move this a little bit, I'll show you what I've done. I did tiny little stitches all the way around to just secure all the pieces down so that I didn't have to have too many pins. Now as I put the next layer on, here's the back, I'll have a few more pins. So my next layer, I wanted to just add a little bit of texture. I don't know if this is where what I'm actually going to do. I don't know how much color I want to add to to this project. We'll see. I'm stored everything back in my box because I went in for a little bit. You may hear a little bit of rattle. Joey's out here working on a propane line, an old propane line that's needing to be removed, so he's digging that up. So anyways, yeah, I found some different colors and I thought I would, see how those go on here. I'm trying to see which bird that is. Yeah, the birds aren't super excited about me being here because I'm near 3 bird feeders. And even though the feeders are empty, I'm looking to see if they're all empty. Even though they're currently empty and waiting for Joey to fill them, they're just unhappy about me being so close, I think. They've had all winter by themselves near this feeder. So that's a little piece of wool I had. This is fun. This is a yo-yo. It's the first time I found a bunch of yo-yos. It's the first time I found a yo-yo that was made out of double knit. I thought that was kind of neat. Trying to decide. That might be like a last layer thing. Then I found some vintage fabric. I'm just going to fray a little bit there. Maybe I'll put that right across here. Okay. The wind has picked up a little bit, but it's still so nice. I did put my sweater on because when I went inside I got cold, but come to find out it's colder inside than it is outside, so I'll probably take it off here in a little bit. Now I think that's gonna be another layer after I do my Kathy Holden stuff. I think I'm gonna take this down just a little bit. Whoops. The wind. I better tack these real quick. It's a little windier than it was earlier. And then I did want to put some sari silk throughout here. And I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just kind of follow along this line here. So I'm just going to tack it a little bit. I'm trying to decide because I want to do some slow stitching, so I think I'm going to wait on that as well. So we've got that down. That's one more layer. Okay. Sometimes it sounds like monkeys. This is a brown, but really, depending on the where you have it, it almost could look like it's has some green to it. Okay, now I think what'll happen is as it seems like I have some really dark pieces standing out, but I think as I go through and add then the next layer, some of this will soften down a little bit. See, like that. So I'll put that over there too. And then I'll pick up my scraps real quick. Here's another one I think I might use in this one for the next layer. I'm gonna tuck them under this box just in case the wind picks up a little bit. Okay, so then what I did was I brought out this vintage thread. It's probably like a maybe a crochet. I'm hesitant sometimes to use vintage threads to sew because they can break so easily. This one seems pretty strong. Another thing about this thread is if you compare it, let's see here. You can see it's much thicker, so it may give me trouble, excuse me, going through the layers. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm going to try it though. And I did get a needle with a larger eye. Again, though, that could present problems because even though the eye is larger, it makes the needle a little bit larger too on the ones that I have. Don't let that impress you that I was able to thread that. Typically, I need to get, for something like this, I need to get my threader out. But all right, so now what I'm going to do, as you can see here, I've gone through and I've done teeny tinies, but now what I'm going to do is a little bit more predominant stitching to just give this base of my slow stitching. Now, I'm not a perfectionist at this. Probably one of the reasons why I like it, because, I struggle with perfecting things. Oftentimes, if I can't perfect something, I just won't do it. Which is a characteristic trait that I'm working to eliminate. So, doing this and not expecting myself to be perfect is somewhat therapeutic. Also, I think it also gives a little bit of character to the overall project. I think, in 100 years, if somebody wanders upon this journal and this slow stitch, if they have any appreciation for craft at all, I think they'll appreciate even the, what am I trying to say, crudeness of the attempt. I know I do. When I come across something, it doesn't, as someone that does crafts, I appreciate all of it, whether it's refined or not. And oftentimes it's the ones that aren't refined that I like the most, because I feel like they really struggled to still exist. Typically, it's only the refined things that, continue to exist. So, like, sometimes when you find those samplers, and, maybe they were schoolgirls, they started doing those when they were quite young. and they're not refined. Those are the ones that are a little bit more primitive that, people love. So then I'm going to skip down a little bit, maybe an inch, and go back the other way. Just want to make sure I'm catching. Oops. I think I might just need to do that in a single stitch here. I don't know if you remember me telling you about a month ago, Joey had, was just feeling better to where he could walk out in the yard. And the yard is not, it's not like a lawn at, a neighborhood lawn. It's very uneven. And, it's just like walking through a, wooded area, except it has some grass. And by grass, I mean like wild grass. Anyways, he made it out and he put up the hammock, laid down in the hammock, and was out like a light. And I tell you, that's not difficult to do here. All these wonderful sounds. Even when a train comes by, because we live here where it's predictable, it doesn't alarm us like it used to. Like, we don't jump, or if we're sleeping, it doesn't wake us or anything like that. So even that, can be calming. I found it very, very calming. I listened to the train on the tracks, the actual track part of it. Anyway, so yeah, he was out like a light. And listening to the birds today, I can see why. I've got 2 little lawn chase lounges out here, and I need to get the cushions on them. And get off of there, Nat. Beat it. I need to get the cushions on them and get the pillows out for them. The problem is this particular deck is not covered. Our other decks are covered. This one isn't. And so then it's a back and forth, putting the cushions back when it rains. And we're still in a very much rainy season. So sometimes I'll just throw them in the bedroom. But then if, we have rain for 3 or 4 days, then I'm dealing with these cushions in the bedroom, which are not super fun. They're quite large. So I didn't space this just quite right to be able to get another row through here. So I'll probably do some other stitching on that, or put something over it to stitch it down, because that needs to be stitched down. I don't want something that, that large kind of flopping around or anything. So really at this point, this thread that I'm using, this vintage thread, is going pretty smoothly, as well as this large needle. It's going through pretty good. I have a really neat basket. I can't even remember. I mean, I can tell you I got it at either a thrift store, flea market, or garage sale. That's just the way I work. But I've got this really neat basket. It has a really loose weave to it, so you can easily see what's inside. And it's somewhat of like a lantern shape. And I keep in there vintage spools of like this. This is the smallest one. Kite string, utility string, all kinds of vintage string, but just the whites, or the vintage whites. And at Christmas, though, I do have some vintage Christmas spools of string, and I put those in just to add some color at Christmas, and that's kind of fun. You hear that? That's the geese going over. We have Canadian geese. They don't land here very often because we don't have a pond, and our creek is not constant. It's considered a dry creek bed, but it runs if we have rain. We do have a French drain that empties to it, so it runs if we have a good rain or so, which I love. I love to go back there and look at it when it's running. It's pretty neat. But we have a couple of ponds nearby, so the geese they're flying from one to the other. I did see a crane the other day at one of the ponds. Couldn't believe it. I hadn't seen a crane except at the lake. So that's kind of fun. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to capture all of this, and then I will add my next layer. I must be getting into some thickness here. So these videos will be a little bit shorter, and then they'll just have little steps to it, to what I'm doing here. But I hope you'll see how simple it is just to take some scraps. You don't have to be an expert in any way of anything. Just take some scraps, some thread you've found. Now see, I've got about 3 or 4 layers right here. Ugh. Some scraps that you have found, and just put them together. Oops. What have I done here? Got stuck on that pin. Comes another train. So you can start to see it coming along. As I do that, we'll go a couple more rows, and then I'll finish it off camera. I might pause it so that I can then just show you maybe that next layer. Let's use my needle threader real quick. There we go. It's about time to change the thread anyways, but try to get as much as I can out of it. I don't want this to be too puckery because I have some other things I want to, put on top. And that being said, I don't want them to have to go on something that's puckered. Okay, so if Joey he's also been taking down our well house to get ready to move some things and do a new well. Not new well house. So if we hear him banging around too much, I'll also cut this short too. But it's just deconstructing the old well house. Looks great. You know, we've only been here a few years, and so it is a slow but sure process. And this old place, you know, like I said, it's over 100 years old, and many of the things have not been touched for a long, long, long time, like 30, 40 years. And so, oh, I don't know if you can see a little bit of that. Some you can, some you can't. It leaves a nice texture though. Okay, I'm going to pause and do a few more rows, and I'll be back in just a little bit.